Hello, Josh here with Oldschool and Offgrid and the Fallen 5 Drive. Wanted to give a weekly update. Last week I don't think I did one, so I've been a little bit behind on my videos. Been very busy, fortunately, so getting a lot of stuff figured out and straightened out. So for each video I want to have a topic and discuss certain things that are important to me and I think important to our country and our society in general and humanity, of course. Some things that are of value to me are of course humans, right? My own life and other people's lives, and nature, and of course God, right? And without these things we wouldn't be able to have life. God created us all equally, and I firmly believe in that. So these videos to me are a little bit boring. It's just me talking. So for a little bit of entertainment value, I would prefer to have another person here to discuss some things, but for now it's just me and my ideas and thoughts and some of my adventures and discoveries and things like that throughout the week, and just to kind of catch up. For me, this is a good way to have video therapy, if you will, to discuss certain ideas and things that are, I think, of relevance. One thing I want to do is establish, I guess, myself and credibility and things like that. So, growing up in the country, I learned a lot of things about being independent and learning about nature. So, it makes you kind of tough growing up on your own. I think as a boy, you sort of adventure and seek the need to be on your own and have independence. So for me, that was something I really valued as a kid growing up, being out in the woods and camping and fishing and hunting and all those sorts of things. So learning about people, I had some good mentors growing up, my grandfather, my parents, and friends. So I've worked hard all my life. I've worked on dairy farms, and since the age of about 10 or so I've been baling hay every summer. And when I lived in Wisconsin, I don't do that now so much. I live in a hay field right now, but I don't bale the hay. So let me think here. So I learned a lot of good work ethic and worked hard growing up. So you can pick up a 60 to 80 pound bale of wet hay and throw it on an elevator and then stack it in a hay mound where it's 110 to 120 degrees. It kind of teaches you how to work hard and gets you strong. I don't work out. Really don't. I get a free gym membership once a year from right after the New Year, of course, trial period. So I work out about 3 times a year. I've been doing more stretching and yoga type activities and things like that after my accident. So, that helps out a lot. I think it's good to stretch and have harmonious balance with your body and nature and just connect and breathe. Because you get tight, the stress and tension in your body I think affects you. So, tonight's message I want to have is about equality and energy and balance and all those sorts of things. So, after I guess grew up, I decided to go in the Air Force, and I did that. And my goal was to serve my country. I felt like I couldn't fully be who I was going to be until I did that. And so I was going to go in the Marines. And education was a really important thing to me. Growing up, I always felt that people sort of looked down upon me in a small community because I didn't come from one of the families that were established. And for me, it was a path of figuring things out on my own, essentially. And I didn't always make the best choices as a kid. None of us do. So from there, I had a real opportunity to succeed in the Air Force and challenge myself in a new career, something I had never done before that was dangerous and technically challenging. So after I finished my training and mandatory curriculum, I scored in the 90th percentile. I think my score was like 95% or something like that. But, then I pursued a collegiate career while in the Air Force full time. For about a year and a half, I had a 4.0 GPA while taking two classes, I think about 6 credit hours. I tried 3, that didn't quite work out. So I did that, and while I was serving overseas during wartime, I earned essentially a degree and a half, my technical career field, and then another half of an associate's degree, all debt-free. And I published the squadron's first newspaper and figured out that you could actually get 2 PhDs from scratch if you wanted to over a 20-year career period. Most people wouldn't do that. But I was on that path, not necessarily for a PhD, but to maximize my education benefits while serving my country to the maximum. I had additional duties of physical training leader, and then toward the end of my career, I was selected as a efficiency specialist to streamline operations to serve the 21st century. They called it the Air Force Smart Operations for the 21st century, right after the 2007, I guess, financial crisis. So, the military was trying to figure out how to save money, ironically. So, along that path too, I picked up the Bible on the first Sunday in basic training down in San Antonio, and began my journey with God. So, God created light, He created the good and the dark, and from there I learned quite a bit about the Old Testament. I read about half of it before I figured out there was a New Testament. And that might sound funny to some people, but when you don't grow up with God or a Bible, it's all new. So, and that's wonderful. Anybody's spiritual relationship, whether they're 9 or 90, is important. And, it's the most important thing in my life. I love people. God created us all equally, man and woman. I believe all women and men are equal. Nobody is superior to one another. I believe that all people are good, right? And we don't always make good decisions, but you have to firmly believe that people are good. Because if you don't give people opportunity and a chance, they're never going to succeed their truest, fullest potential. And so what I wanted to talk about was equality tonight and positive energy. I've learned to become a much more positive person. I've learned that you can manufacture your own happiness. And that's important because when you struggle with depression like I do, you kind of figure out that happiness doesn't come in a pill bottle or from a doobie or a beer bottle or anything like that. It comes from really sitting down and being square with yourself, accepting the fact that you've made mistakes, and you've got to learn and grow from that. And that's what life's all about, is forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, accepting them. And I'm by no means perfect. I can be very judgmental and, a jerk sometimes. So, that's something I'm working on, is I look at things and sometimes see the problems instead of why things, I don't see the good always, So I'm trying to find the best way to deal with people when I see problems that, if I were in the position to change that, I would have already changed that. So when I see somebody who's perhaps performing under what they could be, I get a little frustrated. So, especially when it comes to our veterans and in the veteran administration, a lot of folks my age and people that have come from my background, I guess you could say, or the generation that has served in the recent conflicts, they're, in my opinion, they don't have a purpose after serving. And so, part of my mission with the Fallen 5 Drive is to remember the 4 Marines and sailor that were killed in Chattanooga almost 4 years ago, is to honor them and respect them. Also to turn a tragedy into a triumph, and do it in a unique way. I put 5 different fuels on one vehicle because I believe it's important we all work together. Different energies and energy sources. We all need energy. I imagine the best way I can simplify energy is imagine pushing your car and how much energy it takes. Imagine how far you go on 1 gallon of gasoline. My old truck gets about 7 miles to the gallon. It's a giant old Suburban I bought for $600. It's a real piece of crap sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's a recycled truck and it works okay. Some cars get 50 miles to the gallon. The Blazer gets anywhere from 13 to 17. But the idea is to showcase that we as Americans and all people, need to work together. Our energies, our positivity, right, can be good, or negativity, it's bad. But we're entitled to our emotions and feelings as humans. That's natural. That's what makes us human, right? And so after earning 3 degrees and 5 years debt-free, it's, you know, I guess I've learned a lot of things in my life, not just from curriculum, but from real-world experiences, challenging yourself and succeeding, but also failing. The hardest lessons I've had to learn are lessons of failure. And I've failed quite a bit in my life, not to the point where I'm a complete failure, but, you know, sometimes it feels that way. Other times it, how would you say, I feel like I've achieved great things, you know, and I have. But, you know, there's still a lot of things that I've got to work on. And the biggest thing, I think, is being positive, a positive person, even when things are negative. And dealing with that, you know, I struggle with that. And that's something I'm really working on. And what I go to is the Bible and pray. You know, that's been the thing that's kept me alive and here today, you know. So that's the message I want to spread to people is no matter what, you know, the world will get better. We just have to work hard at it and work together and treat people as equals and not be judgmental, whether they're black or white or short or tall or cripple or, you know, geniuses or whatever it is. We are equal, and we don't always agree with the things that happen in our communities and in our government and society in general. And, you know, we're in that constant flux of trying to balance those things out to meet the modern needs of society while remaining loyal to our traditional values. And, you know, that's the balance we all have to sort of seek and work hard at. And we can't rest on our laurels or the past to fix the future. We have to actively be involved in our government and different things that we see a problem with. You know, you can't just get on Facebook or YouTube or whatever and like a video and hope it gets better. You know, obviously I want you to like this video and entertain yourself and tune in. I guess this is a podcast. I'm not a very big tech guy when it comes to filming myself or videos or anything. I pretty much just do it all in one shot because at the end of the day I'll spend more time editing a video than I would just talking. So I've learned to speak efficiently and mean what I say and try to have the most integrity as I possibly can. You know, I read something the other night about integrity. It's about setting your priorities before you begin something and knowing where you stand on topics before you're challenged. And so when you're in the moment, it makes it harder if you don't have firm rules and adherence to specific guidelines that you set for yourself in accordance to God. And I think what the most important thing is to really understand your motive and why you do things. And let me think here. Questioning that motive constantly and checking yourself to determine why you do the things you do and why they're important to you, and if you're really doing it out of the place that you think you are. And so, you know, with God being in your life, He knows your mind and intentions and puts you in places to achieve things. And so you have the choice to do good or bad things. And that motive, you can do good, but maybe from a bad motive. You know, say if you're doing something to impress people or achieve a certain social status, you know, if you're trying to go do a job, say that pays really well, and you do it just for the glory of it, as opposed to like what really makes you happy. You know, I've found certain careers in my life that are more fulfilling than others. And at this point, you know, I'm searching for, I guess, the best path forward. And, you know, I'm narrowing that down, and the focus is getting pretty narrowed down. It's very exciting. You know, so for me, this is a hard time, but it's also a good time to, I guess, struggle, but succeed as well. So, you know, how would you say, I've lived in a camper for the past 4 years for different reasons. Some, I guess it's just, I guess when you look at a responsibility factor, minimizing what you need in life and emphasizing what's important and being in a small space that works. You know, I think it's important for me to focus on my life, and you know, I've had different challenges, and you know, I guess going into it, it was pretty good. And then, you know, I guess where I'm at now is, you know, it's been quite a challenging winter. I survived. I know what cold is. I want to thank Joe Rogan and David Goggins. I watched quite a bit of Joe Rogan. Helped me out self-help videos and different things, but you know, he had David Goggins on there. I remember him specifically saying, get cold, you know, get hard. And so I did that. It carried me through the winter, you know, thinking about how Navy SEALs are out there in that frigid water and just hardening your mind, right? But not necessarily your heart. I've hardened my heart. I have in the past. And, you know, in the military, you have to do that, I think, or any service, I guess, to any situation, you know, whether you're a police officer or, say, a firefighter or paramedic, or even a mother, or a father of children. You have to accept things the way they are and not necessarily be cold-hearted, but you know, you have to put on a face to get through things and survive. And when you go through some struggles and hardships, you have to learn to soften your heart back up. So then that's kind of where it gets a little confusing. So you've lived so long and done some challenging things, but when you try to soften your heart back up, maybe you go too soft, or you know, trying to find that balance is, I think, key. And it's tough, and it's a challenge, and there's no time limit on what will work or what won't work. And I think you develop different skill sets where you can employ sort of a hardening of your heart to get things done, to get through, right? But then you need that sort of support, either from people or God, to become back in balance. And you know, I think animals are really important in connecting with nature. I've had my dog with me every day, almost for 4 years, except for when I go on that trip for 2 weeks. And you know, he doesn't speak. I guess he does in different ways, but you know, he doesn't have thumbs either. But he's my little buddy, and he's right over there, Mac. And you know, I guess he's my service dog, unofficially. You know, I didn't have to have him issued by the VA, and the taxpayers didn't have to spend $15,000 on him. I went and bought him for $50, and you know, he's been great. So without that dog, I don't know what I'd do. Without my boys, I don't know what I'd do. And without the ability to express myself and be free and have my Second Amendment rights, and those sorts of things, I don't know what I would do. So, you know, it's important to, I guess, protect those rights and understand that freedom isn't free. That's why we have a military. That's why we have laws that are in place to make sure people aren't acting all crazy and stomping on your laws, and then checks and balances to where our government doesn't overstep itself and get out of line. You know, at the end of the day, if we're taxed to death or regulated to death or burdened with bureaucratic processes, it just kind of makes life a little bit more miserable than it should be. So, you know, in the 21st century here, we've got a ton of technology. You know, it's been a long time since the internet's been out, and I think we need to start utilizing that a little more in terms of our benefit. You know, I call it the 4-inch life. Your phone, people have reduced their lives down to 4 inches, and it's a little bit sad, really. People are staring at their phones more than each other's faces or nature or whatever it is. And instead of being active in organizations, they're just liking things on Facebook or sharing it. And we're all victim of that. You know, I'm not judging. You know, something's better than nothing, but sometimes a thumbs up on a website isn't really doing much at all. So, or if you donate to organizations that are ineffective and they've got really good marketing campaigns, but you know, at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, they're not there. You know, so those are the things we need to really look at. You know, before you donate to an organization, you should look at the efficiency and the operating efficiency of that organization. How much of that dollar you give gets actually spent on, you know, the good that you're trying to produce. You know, and that's important. Also, I think about that when I guess, get donations for the Fallen 5 Drive. I try to balance it out as much as possible. Hopefully break even, you know. And, you know, for me, it's a personal sacrifice, and because I love my country. I love my countrymen. I love people, you know, as much as I live off grid and alone, I do love people. It's just sometimes you need a break. So, or you get good people in your life and kind of tune out the rest. And so I've gone through different phases of being on social media or off of it, and narrowing down my friends lists or adding to it. And so, you know, I think it's important to have a positive message as opposed to a negative message, and to be good in your heart and have good intentions and have a good message, because, you know, I can get angry and upset and rant and be terrible, but I really want to have a good message, and sometimes I have to wait until that message sort of matures, and I can be calm about it. I do get frustrated quite a bit, I guess you can say, and maybe that's part of my struggle with depression, but maybe the other part's just struggling with the reality of life. And what I've come to conclude is that I'm not depressed. The world is depressing, and you think about it, all the evil things, and how do you fix that? My medicine doesn't come from a pill bottle. It comes from helping people. Recently, I guess I really enjoy helping homeless folks, and through my struggles, I haven't had it as bad as some people do, and so I compare myself to that. And even though I've struggled with different things, I look at somebody who has less than me, and I feel fortunate, so I go and help them, and that's my medicine. And really gives me a lot of joy to do that. And sometimes little acts can make a huge difference. So tonight I volunteered my time, I guess, or went to an American Legion meeting here in Trenton, Georgia. So it's really good to see good Americans, good folks, veterans out there in their community doing good and supporting one another. And at the end of the day, there's not a lot of young folks out there in my age group helping other folks, and we need more people. So I'm putting an active call out there to people to get off your butts, get off your phones, and get out to American Legion posts, VFWs, go push a wheelchair, do things like that. Fix up things. This country, how would you say, is getting older, so we need to take care of the people that took care of us and provided what we have today. So it's important to give back and to love and respect people. And for me, it's like my passion is helping veterans, also victims of abuse, so that's something I want to really be passionate about and care about and love and provide for. I've been a victim of abuse in certain aspects. I'm a veteran, obviously, but I struggle with certain things, and so I want to take that pain and turn it into something positive, turn my personal tragedies into triumphs, and do that for other people, and be a leader and recognize the fact that I'm not perfect, but I do have a strong will to do good for others and to seek higher resolutions for things, and just offer myself to different organizations and people that are, I guess, worthy of that. A good friend of mine said something about casting your pearls. Don't cast your pearls to the swine. And that sort of hit home. It's basically where you spend your time and talents is to make the best use of those, because God gave those to you, and it's your duty to choose where you place those talents. I could be out doing terrible things, for bad people, or doing good things for bad people, or bad things, or whatever it is. But I choose to try to do the best for my community and country. My community is pretty much anybody who's around me at that point in time. Imaginary lines on a map somewhere don't really mean much to me. I'm an American, so as long as I'm in this country, I'm good. And I'm a human, first of all, so pretty much anybody that's a human, breathing, living, thinking, deserves respect and help, and I'm willing to sacrifice for other people, even to a detriment, to a point where maybe it hurts me, but I'm learning that balance. So trying to find that, make sure I take care of myself and my family, and then take care of others. So I'm trying to find that balance there. And this hardship I went through is going to serve, I think, other people, and I'm going to take that and turn it into something positive. So I think that when you look at things like that, your positive energy can overcome a lot of things. And so that's my I guess lesson in going through physical and emotional pain, is to turn a tragedy into a triumph. That's kind of my motto, and to do good things for good people. Not all of your works are going to go toward good people, and finding that balance of I guess working hard and making sure that you're working in the right space. That's kind of up to you, and then pray about it. God's going to put you where He needs you, and you just have to trust that and have faith and love. You have to love people. I don't have a problem telling people I love them. You know, at the end of the day, that's probably the most unused word in the world. And you can't overuse it. Just say I love you to somebody, even a stranger, and give them a hug, you know. I guess some of the greatest love I've ever felt was from a homeless lady named Paula. She, how would you say, she was a real sweetheart. I met her, basically she asked to climb in my trash can. This is a 50-year-old lady. And at first it took me back. I was like, well, of course you can jump in my trash can and, you know, find metal or whatever. She's a scrapper. She called it, what did she call it? She called it something. But she was a goof. I loved her to death. She was the sweetest lady. She'd write me cards and I'd give her Dr. Pepper and say hi to her and donate things or whatever. But, you know, she was a super sweet lady. But what she conveyed to me was that she loved me and my boys and wrote me letters and things like that. And a woman of, I guess, of low resource was able to provide me the thing I was missing the most. And so what I found was that people who are homeless are some of the most resourceful, loving people in the world. And I firmly believe in that. And I've experienced that more than once. And, you know, that's where my heart is. And I think that's where a lot of people, I guess, need to be, is when you start helping other folks, you really start helping yourself in the process. And that's the good work of the Lord. That's what the Bible talks about. You know, I can choose to go have a big career with all my degrees and fancy things I can do. But at the end of the day, I serve veterans and I serve my community. I'm not perfect, you know, but, you know, I need help with that sort of stuff in terms of like expanding my reach and effect, and to do it in the right way, to have guidance and good mentors. So, you know, at this point in time, that's what I'm seeking, is good mentors and people who can help me help others, right? And I can help them help others, and that sort of thing. It's that symbiotic relationship of people all standing in a circle of different color and credence together, whether you got a towel on your head or you know, you wear flip-flops or cowboy boots or whatever it is. You know, we're all in this together, and there's only one way out of this world, and it's death. You know, it's going to come to us all, and your works and where you spend your time is what's most important. You know, and every second is important, every penny. You know, fortunately in America we have a lot of resources, and it's important we don't exploit those. It's important we work on different technologies that allow us to live cleaner, more prosperous lives, you know, and all these different energies like nuclear and coal and wind and solar and propane and natural gas and alcohol and gasoline and diesel and you name it. They all need to work together, and there's a place for each of them, right? And so I don't condemn particularly any sort of energy source. You know, they're all good in their own respect and regard. So, you know, people get a little butthurt, you know, if I drive around Trenton, you know, with solar plastered all over my truck, in a town where they have power lines and a power line school and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is that same solar power is sent through the same power lines, and there'll always be a need for power lines and nuclear and all these different sources. So it's about having a diverse energy economy and people working together and investing in our own infrastructure, because the rest of the world is going to move at a pace that is feverish, and we must keep up. And if we don't invest in those things, we're going to fall behind, and we're going to be the nation that doesn't lead, but the nation that lags. And you know, it's important that we start developing jobs that are focused on I guess a brighter, greener future, not you know, not sort of this fantastical lab type technology or going to Mars or anything like that. It's real world stuff here. You know, if you go to NASA and you got to drive past a bunch of homeless people to get to work, that's good and all, but your $20 billion budget might be better spent on feeding people as opposed to like gazing at the stars and naming them for your girlfriend or whatever. You know, so, but if we didn't go to space, we wouldn't have GPSs and solar panels or all these sorts of things. So, you know, I don't particularly condemn certain things. It's just a matter of priority and emphasis and perspective, you know, gaining understanding and wisdom. I'm on a course of seeking more wisdom as opposed to knowledge. I've read a ton of books and been to a lot of different schools and learned a lot. So But at this point, I'm seeking wisdom and patience and understanding, and to share that information and learn and grow. So that's what this whole message is all about. It's about uniting people as opposed to dividing them, understanding, trusting, and respecting that people are good and their intentions are good. And although we are not perfect, we must forgive each other. Whether you're a billionaire or you've got one hair left on your head, one foot in the grave, and the other on a banana peel, you need to consider yourself equal, and we each have an equal responsibility to one another to take care of each other and respect as best possible. If you can't respect someone. Sorry about that, my video filled up. I think my phone's probably filled up. I've got about 4 minutes left, so probably wrap it up here. But the goal is to have people work together and love one another. You can love anybody if you put your mind to it. That's a hard thing, you know, and I've been able to do that, and I'm not perfect, and you know, but that's what it's all about, is learning and growing and sharing that information and doing good and not being afraid. You know, acting out of fear isn't a good thing. I've done that a lot in my life in terms of not believing in myself or the situation, and really just having a lot of you know, questioning going on, or different things, I guess, different levels of paranoia, or just not having faith in one's self or the truest, purest form of God and love and other people and compassion. So but if you don't believe in it personally, it's not going to change for you. So, you know, I've had to make that change. It's been tough, and I'm still working on it. Still have faith in the VA and our government and other people that we can love and come together, and, you know, the police and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, we need to make sure that the laws we have on the books are just and fair and enforceable, you know, and to where people have discretion when they're out in the community, and respect for one another, and have that up front, you know. So that's sort of my message. And anyway, I'm gonna sign off and basically update y'all next week. I've got a ton of other videos to upload, and so I'll be working on that. But I sincerely appreciate you tuning in, and I love you. And God loves you, of course. And that's my message. So you just need to keep on keeping on, rock on, do you, you know, and don't be afraid. So, you know, and if you fall short of your own goals, well, guess what? There's always tomorrow. So, and if there's not, well, good riddance. You're going to heaven. I believe it. So, take care of yourself. Josh out.